Thank you very much, Melissa. Welcome everyone to the Revolution, and thank you again for attending today. My name is Jim Dallas, and I am a regional sales manager here at DataMyte. Some of you may know me as your local DataMyte sales rep. What I'm going to talk about now is the comparison between the old Model 600 and the new Revolution. So one of the first things you're going to notice about the new Revolution is we've tried to streamline and simplify the number of configurations that are available. So what we basically have are three types of configurations that you can get. We have the torque configuration, which you'll see there at the bottom left of the screen. That configuration will come with a digital cabled connection to a cabled torque wrench, or it will have a wireless Bluetooth connection to wireless Bluetooth wrenches. We also have a digital LMI microinch digital gauge configuration, which you see there in the center at the bottom of the screen, and that will allow you to connect to all of your various digital hand gauges like calipers and dial indicators and gap and flush probes and things like that. And it will also have the cable ports there that you see in the picture, and it will also have a Zigbee wireless connection built in internally for use with microinch or wireless gauges. But the really great new thing about the new Revolution is now for the first time we have the ability to have a dual combined use data collector. So now you can actually get the data collector configured to do both torque and digital hand gauges. In the past with other models like the 600, you had to have one configuration for doing torque and another configuration for doing digital gauges. So you had to purchase two separate units. With the Revolution, we've now made it possible for you to get everything in one data collector. So I think that's going to be a huge leap forward that many of you out there will truly appreciate. Also at the bottom right of the screen, you'll see the bottom of the new Revolution, and we will still have that digital USB cable port for connecting the Revolution to your data collection PC, and it will also still have a Wi-Fi connection option to allow you to connect to your data collection PC wirelessly through your plant's Wi-Fi network. So a lot of the things have remained the same. The things that you've come to trust and rely on and count on are the same, but there are also some new and exciting features. Next slide, please. So one of the first things you're going to notice when you get a chance to pick up the new Revolution and play with it is you're going to notice that it's got a much better, more intuitive user interface. It is an interface that is more like what you're used to on your other devices, which is going to make it much easier, more intuitive, much easier to navigate, and much easier to respond to prompts. It's also got a much larger touch screen. So the screen is now 42% larger than it was on the old 600. It's now a 5-inch screen, and it's got that touch screen capability, which to me is one of the greatest new features of the Revolution. This is going to make it much easier to read with that larger screen. If you're older like me and have bad eyesight, you're really going to appreciate that, being able to read the screen better. It's going to have much better resolution. It's going to offer you much higher definition for your images, and that's going to come in handy when you're using work instructions on the screen and your operators need to view them. Also, one other great new thing that the touchscreen provides is we now have the ability to do image manipulation on the screen. So if you look at that picture there on the right-hand side, there are icons on the screen for zoom, pan, and rotate. So you will now be able to zoom, pan, and rotate your images simply by touching the screen, which again gives your operators a better look or different looks at work instructions if they need it. So I think this is a really great, exciting new feature of the Revolution that a lot of you out there will really appreciate. Next slide, please. One of the new add-on options that we have for the Revolution, we now have a high definition camera option. So the high definition camera option will now allow you to take pictures or images to help with your traceability. It is new to the Revolution. It was not available on the 600. And now you can capture images for use with your corrective action or with your attribute data collection. So this will be an option that you can choose on the new Revolution. I think a lot of people will be excited about that. Next slide. One of the things that's remained the same with the Revolution as with the 600 is we still have a barcode option reader. With the barcode reader, it is still has the same industrial quality scanner as the 600 had, so you're not going to have a reduction in the quality. It's still able to read 2D and 3D barcodes and VIN numbers. It is still able to read in low light or indirect light conditions. You're still able to read through a windshield with the barcode scanner, so it makes a perfect yard audit tool. It also helps to improve your data integrity and traceability by reducing the human influence over your data. As we all know, anytime humans can influence data, it really kills that data integrity. So when we design things for DataMyte, we really try to reduce that human influence over data as much as possible. However, the one thing that has changed with the barcode scanner from the 600 to the new Revolution is it is now much easier to use on the Revolution. In the past with the 600, if you wanted to activate the barcode scanner, you had to either press enter or shift plus enter, depending on how you set your characteristics and labels up. But now with the Revolution, there will be a barcode scanner icon on the screen, and you'll simply be able to just tap that icon to activate the barcode scanner. And this is, as I mentioned, an option that you can purchase with your initial purchase of the data collector, or you can add it on later, just like with the 600. And just like with the 600, it's going to be a little less expensive if you add it on with the initial purchase of the data collector. So if you're pretty sure you're going to want this option or you need this option, you may want to seriously consider adding it at the time of the purchase of the data collector. Next slide, please. So one of the greatest new features of the Revolution that I think most of you on this webinar are going to love is we have now added an advanced search capability to the Revolution. So we now have a Google-like freeform search window on the screen. And you can now easily search for things like setups, gauges, characteristics, and reports. You simply have to type a few characteristics in that search window, and the Revolution will pull up all of the results that match that search. This can save a lot of time and effort for our larger customers who may have hundreds of setups to search through. In the past, you had to bring up all of those setups and search through them with the arrow keys, but with the Revolution, you can now just type in a simple search there and it will bring up all the searches that match. We still have barcode search capability like you had on the 600. So you can set up a barcode for each collection area, and then your operators can scan that barcode with the Revolution, and the Revolution will automatically bring up the correct setup for that inspection area. And you can still also use the keyboard for searching. You can still use the arrow keys to search through lists if you desire. The point being is at DataMyte, we try to give you as many options to do things the way you would like to do them as opposed to being forced to do them one single way. So now you have a number of options for doing searches that you didn't have with the 600. Next slide. This next one is one of my favorites, and I think it was one that was requested by a lot of you on the webinar today and a lot of our customers. The new Revolution will now have a vibration or tactical feedback functionality. So the Revolution will now vibrate for out-of-spec readings, in addition to giving you the visual light cues and the audible beep cues. This, I think, you'll find really helpful in loud plants, in conditions where beeps can't be heard. You'll now have this additional feedback from the vibration. And the vibration is pretty strong. So if you're one of those users that doesn't actually hold the data collector in your hand, but maybe you wear it on a belt clip and it rests on your thigh, or you wear it on a shoulder strap and it rests on your stomach or on your chest, that vibration will still be strong enough for you to feel it. We also now have, this is another great feature, we now have the capability to do alarms and notifications on the Revolution. This again is something that's new to the Revolution. It was not on the 600. Now you can trigger and sound alarms for out-of-spec readings and other nonconformities. New automatic background data upload feature that we have on this will help to enable this functionality in real time. And escalations can also be added, and we're going to talk about that a little bit more in more detail in further slides to come. Next slide. So what we're doing here is a little deeper dive into what I mentioned in an earlier slide about improved characteristic navigation. So we're showing the comparison of how it was done in the 600 versus how it will be done in the Revolution. So you can see the old 600 screenshot on the left and the new Revolution screenshot on the right. With the 600, you had to bring up an entire list of characteristics and then manually search down through the entire list with the arrow keys until your desired characteristic was found. And that was very labor intensive and very time consuming, and I'm sure it drove a lot of you crazy out there. Well, now it's much easier with the new search window on the Revolution. As you can see there on the right, it has an on-screen keyboard. So you bring up the keyboard, you type in the first few characters of what you're looking for, and the Revolution will bring up everything that matches that search query. Next slide. So another feature we have is the new automated data upload feature. So on the 600, data could only be uploaded manually by hitting the send button. But now on the Revolution, you have another option to do this thanks to its continuous Wi-Fi capability. Now you can still upload the data manually with the send button if you wish, but you can also set triggers for automated data upload in the background, like when a subgroup is completed or when a route is completed. You also have the option to allow the data to be uploaded at the end of a subgroup, even if data is missing or skipped, or you can only allow data to be uploaded at the end of a subgroup if it's completed and all data has been gathered. Again, we give you options to do things how you want to do them. You have control with these settings. You can also eliminate false alarms by using these advanced configuration settings. The continuous Wi-Fi allows for near real-time notifications. And again, we'll get into that a little bit further on down. Next slide, please. So another thing that is remaining the same with the Revolution as with the 600 is you're still going to have the ability to do offline data collection. You can still continue to collect data offline if you lose connectivity to your network. This helps reinforce the traceability of your data. You will not lose data during a power outage because data is still saved on the device, just like with the 600. This is not true with other mobile collection devices like a phone. So it's a little bit of added data security that you get with the DataMyte product. Next slide. So some more features. One-stop data collection and improved workflow. You now have an intuitive UI and touchscreen that provide easier navigation, which allows for easier access to data like images, descriptors, and prompts. Now you also have a toggle-like navigation capability for the menus at the top and the bottom of the screen, thanks to the new touchscreen. With the 600, you had to use a combination of keystrokes to access this information. With the Revolution, you can simply just tap the screen in either one of those areas on either one of those icons to simply toggle back and forth between what you're looking to do. You can still use the keyboard though, however, if you prefer to. We understand change is hard for some people, so we wanted to keep the old way in there along with the new way. So again, we give you options to do things the way you prefer to do them. Next screen. So another feature that has kind of remained the same but changed slightly is you still have automatic gauge synchronization. So you still have the ability, just like with the 600, to automatically detect and sync with your tools. This ensures that the correct tool is used with the data collector every time. Now, though, with the enhanced display capability, the Revolution displays not only the gauge description or the alias, but also the gauge serial number. So if you look there in the bottom right-hand of that picture there on the right, you'll see that it says WR75-SN number 04026. You couldn't have that serial number display with the 600, but you now can have that with the Revolution. So this just adds an extra poka-yoke or a layer of security to prevent incorrect or uncalibrated tools from being used with a data collector. Operators can now check and confirm that they have the exact right set of tools with the exact right collector before they go out onto the plant floor. This will save them a lot of shoe leather and getting all the way out there and having to come back because they discovered they grabbed the wrong set of wrenches. Next slide. So what we're doing here is a little deeper dive into the previous slide. And we're going to take a look at comparing the 600 data collector input screen to the Revolution screen. And as you can see, the 600 screen is on the left and the Revolution screen is on the right. And we can see how the 600 only shows the gauge alias, says WR75, while the Revolution screen shows both the alias and the serial number. Next slide. This next new feature is one of my personal favorites, and I think a lot of you on the webinar are going to love this one. We now have dynamic displays with the Revolution. This is, in my opinion, one of the best new features. If you remember, with the 600, you only had static displays or images, and they could not be modified or manipulated. However, with the Revolution, you now have an interactive dynamic display and images that can be manipulated and modified. The 600 torque curve on the left and the Revolution torque curve on the right are very different. You can't move the crosshair on the 600 curve on the left to see other points along that data curve. So if you had it set for angle restart, you'll see the data for angle restart, but you couldn't move that crosshair to the peak point to see the data for the peak point. So with the Revolution, that crosshair is now interactive, and you can actually slide that crosshair with your finger on the screen to move it to other points along the curve. So you can go and check out what the data is for the peak point. You also have much easier access to additional screens with the Revolution by simply tapping the screen option icons at the bottom or the top of the screen, thanks to the touchscreen. So with the 600, you had to use a number of keystrokes to do this, and you had to close out of one screen before you could open up another. Now with the new dynamic displays and the touchscreen of the Revolution, you can now toggle between different data views much easier. Next slide. So one of the things that has not changed, you're still going to have the security that you've come to rely on from DataMyte. You still have the same trusted, secure system you've come to expect from DataMyte. The solution is still locked down for wireless and Wi-Fi and cable connections. You still have impeccable data integrity thanks to secure data transfers between the Revolution and your DataMetrics database. We still don't have any third-party apps on the Revolution, so you don't have to worry about third-party bugs, viruses, or hacks. You still have encryption support. And there are still only DataMetrics registered devices that can be used with this system. So bottom line, your data is still just as secure as it was with the 600.